Mr. Chairman, there is one other one I think we can, if you go back to the preceding section, and have we missed anything important not related to transport but just generally. There was a bit of a plethora there of different types of topics, and they were dealt with by the various officers. Paul, what's your number on those? Sorry, I've got these ones here.
Forestry investment.
Yes, that one, yeah, thank you.
So what page is that?
What?
So those of you who are looking at just the officers' responses,
Page 16 of 19.
Yeah, but those who are not, so it's,
Yeah, page 16 of 19 of the...
So we're page 26 at the back. There we go. So yeah, we're right at the back of this volume, page 26. It's under
attachment 17.
Yeah.
yeah. It's under the attachments excluded from the agenda, which is at the very back here. Yep. Right at the back, and it's page 26 of that lineup. Worth about.
Has everyone found it?
Forestry investments, Paul Bailey, correct?
Yes, that's it. That's the first one, yes.
Madam Chair, the answer has been given in that we do actually have a diverse range of plantation forestry.
Has it actually been provided to him? No, it says Mr. Bailey is directed to this report.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we can send it to him.
we can do, yeah. But
That's what should happen. Send it again.
Wairoa River, Mr. Little, Mike.
yeah, and that's suggestion by Mr. Little that we put some groins in sort of next to the ferry hotel. I got there's these are little printouts of cross sections and aerial photo. There is quite a pinch point there. There is quite a significant velocity through there, and there is quite a significant change in flood level as a result of that. So, and that's the reason why there's the high velocity. So, realistically, you are talking. He's suggesting something sort of relatively cheap, is my understanding. My assessment of that is there's probably very little in terms of sort of relatively small cost engineering works that could be done there that would achieve what he's suggesting.
Including a consent, I suspect.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I don't think his suggestion is really practical in terms of something that would prevent mitigation, prevent erosion in the long term.
Has he seen these?
I'm not sure what
Graphs
was
and
sent
photos?
to him. I mean,
He has, okay.
certainly they can be sent to him. Yeah.
They have been. Okay.
Yeah.
So further questions on Wairoa River? Okay.
Never considered sort of sheep piling or whatever on that bend?
Yes, but it's got to be really quite deep. I mean, you're talking 20 metres of river depth, and then you've got to get a footing on it. So I know costs have been done in the past on protecting those rivers, and they are really high. Yeah, this Robert Simons, yeah, basically he was suggesting that we do improve the level of flood protection, and he obviously wasn't aware that we had planned to do that anyway, was my take on that.
Next point is around the Healthy Housing Coalition, and back in 2009 that was established by a number of agencies and organisations, and the Regional Council took a lead role in that for two reasons really. One because the first priorities that were identified were around clean air and warmth, so that really aligned with our Heat Smart program. And secondly, we were able to provide some resource in the form of a part of Megan Rose's time when she was the Healthy Homes Coordinator to be able to coordinate the coalition as well. The coalition really fell into abeyance a little, and in fact a whole lot. But now through the Intersectoral Leadership Forum, there's been some calls, particularly there's been some presentations from the District Health Board itself around health inequities within Hawke's Bay, and one of the measures that's been seen as potentially being useful is to revive that coalition and to look at what some of the other priorities are that were identified right at the outset of this whole program. So they have asked in their submission that, the Regional Council take the lead. My comment really is around that guidance on that should really be given by the Intersectoral Leadership Forum once they have decided what their priorities are, because the way I look at it, the priorities that were first identified and that we are still working on because we're still running the Heat Smart program, but there'll be new ones selected which we do not have the expertise in, and things like overcrowding and affordability and safety and other priorities there are really not our forte at all. And so that's probably my first reaction, is to perhaps be guided by the Intersectoral Leadership Forum as to who they see being the appropriate lead agency. But if you do decide that as part of your broader regional leadership role, that you would still be interested in perhaps doing this, accepting their submission, then we would need to make provision in the long-term plan for a part-time person, and we don't have that provision at the moment.
I thought she actually said that she would prefer it to be dealt with through this intersectoral group, because if one party takes it on, then it lets others off the hook. That's what she was saying.
In their written submission, they specifically asked for the Regional Council to take the coordination role. But yes, it was quite good. I can't remember who, someone asked a question yesterday, and there was that slightly different response, I felt, too. Yeah.
Mr Chairman, in our response in this one, could we actually draw attention to the fact that it was our response to our responsibilities under discharged air, clean air, and the unintended consequences of cold homes that led to the stand that we took. And it's no longer appropriate for us to go further than that.
So can I just ask a question? Did you say there is existing an intersectoral group that is tasked with looking at this?
Not directly at this council. The Intersectoral Leadership Forum comprises the mayors, the chair, EIT, Health Board, etc. And they meet about MPs. They meet about once a quarter, three to four times a year, and look at what are the sort of the big issues and what they can work on in terms of particularly around social and economic improvement for the region. They've identified a number of actions that they're taking, but certainly the Health Board has been quite prominent in its work, its reporting around health inequities, and some of the part of the solution to that, potentially part of it, is revisiting the whole healthy homes issue, and whether or not the people have the right and are living in the right environment to allow them to then be well enough to go to school, to get an education, to get a job. That whole cycle really.
Right.
Yeah.
So if there's an entity that's looking at this area of healthy housing, is there any reason why they couldn't also be tasked with looking at the issue around water for the homes that don't have water, because that was another issue that was brought up.
Right. Well, they could, because because that would be on the list of the priorities.
Yeah.
Obviously having a
and that was
a
what
healthy
Toro
home.
raised as well.
Yeah.
But with your condolence, can we stay on the subject here? We're going all over the place. These people were talking about healthy homes. Let's just focus on healthy homes. I agree with you, Liz, that we should take it back to that group. But let's take it back, and Fenton, if we could charge you to take it there and get a damn decision. who's going to lead this. And while all of the leaders in Hawke's Bay are all fluffing around and sitting on their backsides, there's people living in dreadful, and I'm seeing it at the coalface and some of my other activities, and it's a damn disgrace. So we do need to have some action. It's not just Hawke's Bay, by the way, it's everywhere. So can you go there, come back and tell us who's going to be in charge?
So the next meeting is Monday week of this Intersectoral Leadership Forum, and I'm preparing a paper to go on the agenda later this week.
And can you come back and tell us who is in charge?
Certainly will. Should be able to tell you that at the council meeting.
Thanks. And it should. I thought these guys ducked it dreadfully today, duck for cover, which is what the Hawke's Bay Health Board is doing on occasion.
Officially, our view is there should be a healthy housing coalition, the leadership of which is to be determined.
Yes, yeah. That's good. Just
Yeah, those physical services, definitely.
Just before we go any further, I'm going to move that we accept an extension of time, and Christine Scott's going to second that. All those in favour? Aye. Pedantic reality of... Everyone's against.
Perhaps,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, if we just finish this section.
Yeah,
So we've got
that's fine.
4 more points to do, and then I think you've done very, very well.
That's been a good go.
Regional connectivity and rural broadband, again, Unison and Catherine Bayliss here. Now, just to perhaps give you a little bit of an update here, as part of the Hawke's Bay Lass Shared Services, we've had some discussions because the central government's offered rural broadband initiatives, and they've offered, there's 2 different types of contracts, one's for suppliers and one's for local territorial authorities. So in particular, there are submissions being prepared by Central Hawke's Bay District Council, by Wairoa District Council and by Hastings on behalf of their rural community. So we had a discussion about whether or not this should all be one document. It was felt on balance no, because the stats are quite different for the different areas. However, it was agreed that there would be a regional overview prepared, which we are actually doing. The regional council is actually providing that regional overview to show that I guess to show support for whichever parts of the region are chosen, but hopefully all 3 are chosen as part of this contract. So I'm thinking that may well be certainly a suitable response for those 2 submitters in terms of the action that we're taking.
get clarity, this $100 million of central government funding is for the country or is for Hawke's Bay? Oh, shit, it's going to go nowhere. That connectivity for the farming community is becoming increasingly important if they are to be smart farmers, which is what we want them to be.
Well, certainly we rely increasingly on their ability to be able to access, quick internet speed for the stuff that we send them. The next point is webcasting committee meetings, and this is a request made by a submitter to go back to webcasting the committee meetings in addition to the regional council meeting. The average cost of webcast, and that's the whole system, based on a 5-hour meeting day, is $600 a day. So if you're looking at all the committee meetings, so I'm including everything, including the standing committees, plus the Māori committee and the transport committee and others, you need to budget an additional $13,200 a year, or $5,400 if this was limited to the Corporate and Strategic and Environment and Services Committee. So that's just based on the number of meetings scheduled for 2015. Gives you an idea. At the moment we have $10,000 a year. You'd need to increase it to about 16.
with your microphone on and face the camera.
This actually was the form the original decision was when we decided, or when the previous council decided to webcast, and then the esteemed Murray Douglas succeeded in pulling off the committee meetings. I would propose that we add the $5,400 to do the other two standing committees. We've had arguments around the table here on minutes, what gets faithfully recorded, what isn't faithfully recorded, et cetera, et cetera. For $600 a day, we get a true rendering of exactly what has happened here. And people do watch this. The people who are trying to follow what's going on do look at these. So I don't see any particular reason to discriminate between the full council sessions and our main committee meetings when the issue is $5,400 to add a bit of access and transparency to our proceedings.
Well, we
So I
could,
would
we could,
move
we could do.
5,400.
Okay, we'll deal with these separately on that basis, but with, well, I was going to suggest, after today's announcement, we could do what Hastings District Council did and say, well, they'd consider it after there was a final determination on amalgamation. I think that's how they slipped out of it, which could be a prudent way to deal with this, because there is certainly uncertainty in future, all sorts of things.
Chairman, all matters come back to council, so there's nothing that's decided in those committees that doesn't actually end up in council anyway, so.
Well, I'd like to give Councillor Balfour his opportunity when the time comes to test that. Is that what you're asking?
I think he's moved it.
Oh, you've moved it. So
can I suggest the wording be then that to amend the long-term plan to add $5,400 to Project 895, so just so that we have a record of, for the webcasting of corporate and strategic and ENS committees.
So
Sorry,
is
Leanne.
someone seconding that? No, well, that's extra cost.
Well, that's extra cost.
Well, hang on. So, is there a seconder? You're happy to second that? Okay. You wish to speak further, even though you've done most of your speaking, Councillor Balfour? You wish to speak?
I just think it's in the interest of democracy that, because they're full council meeting, even though they're committee meeting, I think they should be recorded. As Councillor Belford said, there has been some discussions around whether the minutes from those meetings are accurate, and to have a record for the sake of this expenditure of $5,400. I personally would be inclined to go a step further and throw the Regional Planning Committee meeting in there as well, on the same basis that it's actually the full council, all elected councillors that meet. But I'd be satisfied with this.
I live in one of the remotest parts of the region. I've never had one person come to me and say they watched any of our activity, even though I suggested it to quite a few on the web. I'll be voting against. I think it's just going to put unnecessary pressures on a tight budget for this year, certainly in the middle of an amalgamation debate.
People who watch council debates on the internet need to get a life.
Further speakers?
I haven't supported Councillor Dick for a long time, but I'm going to on this occasion.
You wish to sum up, mover? I'll put the motion, and all those in favour, please say aye. And against? No. It is lost.
The next
Democracy prevailed.
the next point is Wairoa issues from Wairoa. Why not? So I'll get Mike to discuss that one. Thank you.
No, most of their submission was with regard to the waterfront and the plan prepared by Boffa Miskell. I think the best way to handle that is firstly, I want to have a chat to Wairoa District Council staff and work out how we do that, but certainly meet with that group, whether it's on the waterfront or in a forum or whatever, we'll sort that out. And I think it would be quite useful to have Boffa Miskell people there to explain their choice of plants, because it is brackish water, and there are a limited range of plants that actually thrive in those areas, and most don't. So, you know, they're probably the best ones. So yes, I certainly acknowledge their interest and their enthusiasm. I think it's great. But we just need to work through that process.
Yeah, so if I could just
Mm.
ask a question, Mike. It was fantastic that they made the effort to come and make comments on the planning, so I think that's good process for you to engage with them and determine what finally the planning should be. The other issue that they raised was around the wetlands, and I'm not familiar with that stretch of river, so I don't know what can be done about that, but clearly it's a problem. Can you comment on that as well?
There are a whole range of coastal wetlands from the west of the river mouth called Whakamahi, Ngā on the other side, Ohuia, which, and all the way through to Whakaki, Paka, Nuhaka, yeah, Mangawhio, all of those. There is quite a lot of work being done around those wetlands. A lot of them are on private land or multiple ownership land, or the lakes themselves are, in the case of Whakaki. And I know our science team is doing monitoring on some of them, and looking at a wetlands strategy. I think it's probably best to ask Ian Maxwell on that one. But yeah, I mean, certainly their interest in that. I think we do need to have a conversation or a communication with Wairoa community about that work at some stage.
So I think I'm hearing that there's not necessarily any need to change the long-term plan because you're already doing work there. The other thing was that they were offering to help with the plantings, which is, I mean, if we've got timeframes or days that's going to be done, I think we should absolutely make sure that that's part of our communication back to them.
Yes, and there is planting there. I'm not sure how many plants are going to Whangawahi this year, but there's a substantial amount of planting that is done annually on some part of Wairoa district, really.
Can I just ask you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mohi under his Rāwhenui, whenua Rahui, it's getting late in the day, I beg your pardon. Hat, you did suggest there is a planting up there very shortly on Ohuia?
Yeah, I think the enthusiasm of them is also tempered with a lot of ignorance, and I think if we could have a little hui with them and let them know what's going on. Whangawehi at Mahia, as an example, we've funded 10,000 plants this year in there, and they've had hapu planting days, and they invite everybody. And Whakaki has got an ongoing program, and Ohuia, which is actually 10 minutes from the main street, just over instead of going up the hill, towards Nuhaka, you go straight ahead into the farm gates and down there. And if they were to see that, and the thing is with wetland restoration, it's so expensive. You're talking between $15,000 and $20,000 per hectare. At plants at just over a metre, at 3,000 plants a hectare. And by the time you spread the costs with looking after them over the next 18 months, it's not cheap. But I mean, so if they get their hands dirty, and they, hopefully they'll feel even more enthusiastic rather than less. But it's just a matter of them, understanding it.
And the final point is energy futures. That was raised really because it was identified as, it was consulted on anyway as part of the Big Six, so it was identified in the consultation document. And really the response here, no one, I think, specifically sought any response, but I think it's worth noting to those who took the opportunity to submit on it, just really where the council has started the process of looking at at an energy strategy, and really just sort of leave it at that, and just explain that process has now begun, and where it's likely to, it'll keep on keeping on.
There was just one thing that one or two people raised, I think, during the course of the submissions, but also in the written ones, about us doing more ourselves to reduce our footprint. Is there anything, has that been considered? Is there anything that we can do?
We've got, we monitor our own as much as we can from our buildings and our vehicles. And we do get reports on that. Stacey still does that, I think, doesn't she? Yeah, I'm not sure. What else?
Somebody made the comment, maybe it was Tom, about whether or not we're carbon neutral. You know, we do have a lot of forests of our own. We are responsible for a lot of planting along the river edges, and if you take that into account, there is, I don't think we've ever done the sort of full exercise. The question has always been, where do you stop? You know, is air travel involved or not? And, you know, all of that sort of stuff. We did do quite a significant stock take some years ago, but yeah, it's probably not a bad point if you think it's important. And that was Mr. Bailey, I think, suggested, and probably quite rightly, that maybe it is worthwhile doing that assessment and putting it out there. Would it cost? Yes, it would cost. I don't think it would be huge, but it's, yeah, up to you. There would be a cost to it. You know.
We actually have costed this before, and the decision was, quite frankly, that we'd actually much rather spend it on actually getting some good environmental outcomes. It isn't done for nothing, but I do think it's worth noting back some of the projects that we do to, such as the fleet efficiency, which is, you know, monitored down to get the most efficient. So we built an energy, what was meant to be an energy efficient building. We have always actually put in positive action to look at energy efficiency and just quote some examples. But no, I can't. You know, I wouldn't like to see money taken away from a project that was delivering an outcome just to.
Councillor Balfour, you.
Yeah, I would support that. I think because we have this other initiative underway, I think that part of the inquiry of that group would be the council itself and its footprint, and are there things that the council, you know, itself would wish to do with respect to the in that broader context. So whether it's, you know, electric cars or fleet man, whatever it is, I mean, I think it would be an issue on the table anyway, as to what's our leadership role as an institution. We just let it sit for now.
So if there's no further questions, that takes us back to the specific points raised, which I think we've dealt with, including the webcasting. Is someone happy to move that no change to the plan?
Move no change, but noting appropriate comments in the responses.
Someone to second that? Happy to, Councillor Scott. Further discussion? Put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. That's us.